This is the eLearn podcast. If you're passionate about the future of learning, you're in the right place. The expert guests on this show provide insights into the latest strategies, practices, and technologies for creating killer online learning outcomes. My name's Ladek, and I'm your host from OpenLMS. The eLearn podcast is sponsored by eLearn Magazine, your go-to resource for all things online learning. Click-by-click how-to articles, the latest in EdTech, a spotlight on successful outcomes and trends in the marketplace. Subscribe today and never miss a post at elearnmagazine.com. And OpenLMS, a company leveraging open source software to deliver a highly effective, customized, and engaging learning experience for schools, universities, companies, and governments around the world since 2005. Learn more at openlms.net. Hi there, I'm Ladek. This episode is part of a live, real-time series that I recorded at the 2022 EDUCAUSE conference in Denver, Colorado. In this conversation, I speak with Madeleine Renken about what it's like to be a young professional in EdTech today and how she plans to help shape the future. And just a quick reminder, you can make sure to never miss an episode of the podcast by subscribing at elearnmagazine.com. Now, I give you Madeleine Renken.
Yay! All right, excellent. I'm going to clip myself in here, and let's get it going. All right. So here, let's see if I butcher your name. Is it Renken or Renken?
It's Renken.
Renken.
Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you very much for being on the eLearn podcast with me here at EDUCAUSE. First question I'm asking everybody is, have you done this before? Have you been in EDUCAUSE before?
I have not. This is my first EDUCAUSE conference.
Super cool. And remind me, when we talked before to set this up, what university you're at?
I'm from McKendree University in Lebanon, Illinois. It's in southern Illinois.
Okay, cool. Right on. What did you expect when you were going to come here? Were you expecting 3,000 people in this huge exhibit hall and all of the different sessions, or what was on your mind when you first were on your way here?
I did expect a large exhibit hall with a bunch of vendors, but not quite this astronomical. This is insane. It's just so overstimulating, but it's such exciting to see so many influencers in education and so many vendors to work with. So,
awesome.
Yeah, it's a great experience.
So you are a part of a panel called the Young Professionals Panel. You haven't spoken yet, but you're going to be doing it when?
Tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Tomorrow at 4 p.m. As I walked through the hallway into here, I see that there's a young professional section where you guys can kind of collaborate or get to know one another. As someone who's been a young professional a long, long time ago, what does that mean to you? What is it at EDUCAUSE? What are they calling out about sort of young professional leaders? And is it just simply hey, you're coming into the scene as either an educator or a data technologist or something like that? Or what's the purpose behind identifying young professionals?
I think in the history of higher education, there's been more representation of more seasoned professionals. And I think as we continue in higher ed recently, there's been a recent increase in a data pipeline of students to employees in higher education. So I think we as an organization represent that not seeing a demographic. I think it's nice to have a space where we can network with each other, and as well as with other CIOs and managers in IT,
okay,
and just get an understanding of our backgrounds and experiences in higher ed and in our fields.
Cool. I'm going to pause as my technical guy is telling me, Chris is telling me that you're a little far from the mic. Can you move it up your lanyard there a little bit? Or you can even just hold it if you want.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sounds good. I'm going to do that too. That way we'll both like this. Sounds
Uniform.
Good. So what is it that you give me your background. Have you already completed your degree and you're already in the CIO path, you're already in the data path, or are you still studying? Where are you at?
So I completed my undergrad at Illinois State University in creative technologies, where we studied a myriad of multimedia there. We studied user experience design, we studied VR and XR, we studied many Adobe products. It was very project-based program. And I completed my degree there, and I was looking into multimedia design, but I came upon the field of instructional design in my research when I was doing job searching. And I found this position at McKendree for an instructional technologist, in which they were looking for someone with this sort of background, as well as a background in pedagogy and working with faculty on best practices and instruction, which I did have experience as an intern with our writing program at ISU, working with faculty and students on understanding their pedagogy and terminology. So with a mesh of those two entities, I kind of created this skill set for this position, and I kind of made it my own. So
nice,
I'm looking
that's fantastic.
Thank you. I'm looking for a master's in instructional design soon. I'd love to study it further and learn more best practices and further my career as an instructional technologist and future designer, hopefully director of educational technology at a university. So
love the ambition. That's fantastic. And I love that you've got that clarity in where you wanted to go. I mean, when I was coming at my undergrad, I had no idea where I would.
Right.
So when you come to a place like EDUCAUSE, you said a little earlier, it's overwhelming. Like there are, there's so many different things. As you're drinking from a fire hose, kind of like, which way do I go? Where does it take you in terms of instructional design? Because I see a lot of, like over here, we've got business data. We're a learning management system. You've got LinkedIn, you've got Salesforce. So do they all then, are you then threading the needle to bring them all back to, how do I use this for design? Do you see disparities where you're like, I'm not sure how this fits? Like, how does that work for you?
I think essentially they all mesh together to create that experience for students. In my role, I use a myriad of tools, especially external learning tools, when they're assessing students, for example, or making course content more accessible. For instance, we have Kanato at my university for our video content management system, and it just brings more options for student learning. It's a part of universal design for learning, bringing more multimedia into it rather than just reading text. So using all these vendors and tools, I think, creates that student experience, and it is a huge part of my job. I work with vendors to implement those tools in our system to make the students' learning experience at McKendree University the best possible.
How does, talk to me about learner expectations. With all of the respect in the world, you're still kind of close to probably you almost could call them peers who are in undergrad right now, or in master's programs right now. Talk to me about what are kind of expectations about learning environments, learning spaces, interacting with learning material. As someone who's going into the design universe or as a part of the design universe now, what are the baseline expectations that you've found to have engagement, to get that rave, to get that kind of wow, this was a great class feedback?
I think it all comes down to designing that course for student feedback, not making it just a one-way path, allowing them to be a part of the experience and communication through discussions. And I think working with the program coordinators, you can use all these tools effectively to meet those outcomes and include the students in the conversation. So.
Okay, excellent. Is there anything, so I guess one of the things in my mind, a great, one of the jargon pieces that we've heard of for so long is gamification. Is that still a huge tool that people are using now, or are we calling it something different? Is there something else that we're looking at in order to increase engagement in a learning pathway, in a design that you're creating?
I think it's still relevant nowadays. I think people are using other methods as well to increase engagement. For example, with our video platform, you can do interactive video quizzing to increase learner engagement and make sure they're understanding the material as they go. So I think it's a multiple options sort of thing. You can use different tools collaboratively together. There's even an increase in VR and XR in learning experiences. I've heard of a nursing program using virtual reality software to simulate patients, their different environments and different situations, what
Sure.
would you in this situation. So I think you can use those different methods, gamification or virtual environments to meet those outcomes.
Sure. Are there any, I guess, we've talked a lot about virtual reality, augmented reality on the podcast in the past. It always seems to come down to that VR and AR have limited use cases. As someone coming into the field right now, do you see, obviously, training physicians, training firemen, safety applications, these types of things. Do you see that as there's a real sort of a finite box that we're going to fit VR and AR into, or do you see it to continue to grow, in terms of like the metaverse and those kinds of things?
I think there is potential for growth. I think you can use it in a variety of applications. It's just going down and like realizing the potential for it and kind of designing for that specific purpose.
As a young professional coming into the field, what are you seeing as the biggest challenges to growth, to finding, like, as you said, you're at a university, you'd like to kind of continue to expand your wings and grow. Like, what are the biggest challenges that you have in starting sort of taking your career forward?
I think just experience alone. I would like to continue dabbling in different fields, experiences as being instructional. I think that's probably the biggest hurdle for professionals right now, is that they don't have much experience to work with, but they have the skill set coming out of their institutions. And I think that's something that leaders need to realize. And sometimes experience isn't everything. You can do on-the-job skills that are learned, but coming out of your degree, you have this skill set to work with,
right,
that you can continue to expand.
All right. And is that a matter of the time? Is it a matter of budget? Like, what's the limitation, the biggest limitation that you have, in flexing that muscle?
I'd say mostly a mixture of both of that, because you get so caught up in the weeds of like day to day. You're supporting an entire institution.
How big's your your colleagues? How big's the office that you're working with in the instructional design that you're using?
So within my niche field of educational technology, it's 2 of us. But our IT department's roughly 10 people. So we're kind of a smaller staff, but what's nice about that is that we can wear many hats and commit more skills that maybe we might not have in our institution. So I think since we are a smaller staff, we have to deal with more day-to-day responsibilities. So that might be the biggest hurdle. And I think having time to set aside to learn new skills is another hurdle that's added.
Okay. All right. What is on the opposite side of that, what's your biggest inspiration? What is your, the thing that you look out there and you say, you talked about virtual reality, you talked about augmented reality. Are there other things, like, are you inspired by other designers of the universities? Are you inspired by technology that's coming down the pipe, anything like that?
Yeah, actually, Renken, she's like a...
Who, sorry? Who?
Renken.
Okay.
Yeah, she's like a very famous influencer in the world of education. So I think listening to talks like that kind of inspires me to dig deeper into what I do during my daily responsibilities. Keep that mindset of student first, putting myself in their shoes again. What's nice is that I still do have that mindset of being a recent graduate, but that just kind of pulls me in from the opposite end, the administrative end of things, and kind of puts me in their shoes.
Interesting.
To design for a student first.
So talk to me about old guard versus new guard as a young professional. I think it's really interesting that the conference itself, prioritizes recognizing young professionals and sort of saying, look, there's new blood always coming into the system, and are there things still happening today? Is there an old guard out there in terms of design, in terms of designing the higher education experience in general, that someone like yourself would say, look, we need to stop doing that, or we like it's time,
Is there any of that urge or anything like that you see?
I still do see that. I see a lot of when I'm helping instructors design online courses, they're very much in the mindset of read this chapter, take a quiz, do this discussion board. I think we can go further with that, especially with the video system that we just implemented at my institution. We can do video discussion boards and do video responses and make it more interactive. And using those other tools and technologies, such as virtual reality, I think you can go further than just having them submit discussion boards to show that they've met the outcomes for that week. So I think we can take it a step further. There's much more potential.
So, final question for you: what other the other people that are either on your panel or that maybe you've been able to mingle with, professionals? What's the buzz that you've heard from them? Or you're an instruction designer. Are there data scientists? Are there what other kinds of young professionals have they called out at this conference?
We do have some young CIOs with some relationship managers, customer success, stuff like that, like very people person jobs. So I think that in their jobs they've learned a lot of. Even I've learned things from them too, from their experiences. So it's kind of nice to bounce off ideas off of each other and hear how their experiences kind of push together in previous institutions, even current institutions. So yeah, it's really neat to relate to each other.
Fantastic.
It feels like you're not alone in this.
So if I lied to you, I have one more question. So if you look forward to the end of this academic year and then you look forward to the next, is there any certain thing that you're especially excited about in the design world or in the education world? It could be a shiny new object, it could be a process, it could be a new theory or a new idea or something for yourself. Is there anything that you're I see this coming and I'm really interested in?
I'm kind of interested in using more data to drive our decision making when we are setting up these courses for our system. I think our current LMS we're using, Brightspace, it has a lot of potential for using data and such to inform our decisions on course success and student success. So I'd really like to use that. It's kind of an exciting thing. Now in the modern world, it's all about data and using that to inform our decision making and everything we do.
Madeleine, thank you so much for taking time out of the conference to come speak with me. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best, and it's 4 o'clock tomorrow. We'll listen to your panel.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks again for joining me for the eLearn podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. Just push subscribe on your player right now. And remember, you can join the conversation live on YouTube, Facebook, and my LinkedIn feed every week. I hope to see you there. Thanks.